Okay. Just get out of here so I can see it. Hello, everyone. We are recording this. I haven't figured out where I'm going to put it yet, because when I put it in WebEx, they require a password. And everybody forgets what the password is. So depending on how big it is, I'm going to try to get it up on my website. Maybe actually we'll put it up on Michael's website, wherever I can fit it once it's all done. Welcome, everyone. Please mute yourself at this point. The only ones that cannot be muted is Michael and myself. What I'm going to do, Isabel, you're not muted. I'm going to explain first who I am. Then I'm going to explain who Michael will explain himself. And then I will bring up the PowerPoint and we will go from there. So I am a clinical aromatherapist. I've been doing this for about, 15 years. My specialty is working with those in hospice. And also I became very involved with frankincense because I wanted something additional to essential oils to use on my clients. And I researched frankincense and studied with many different individuals and also farmers in the field. And I learned all about the tradition of frankincense. And then I decided that I wanted something additional to that. And that's how I got involved with the Boswellic acid. I was working with a company and unfortunately he died of COVID and so did his business. So I've been searching for another company to work with me because as we go through, you'll see how tedious and how long it takes to make the Boswellic acid. And of course, what it does. I did a research paper on it. It is on the PDF. If you want the PDF afterwards, I will give you the PDF. You just need to email me. I just need to seal it and make sure it stays sealed. But so I found Michael and he was willing to work with me since he was a company in the Netherlands who does all kinds of distillations, and the rest is history. So we've been working together for almost a year. And in 1 year, we've accomplished unbelievable stuff. So I'm going to hand it over to Michael so he can tell you a little bit about himself. Go for it.
Well, thank you, Robin, and good day, everyone. My name is Michael, and as you heard, I'm located in the Netherlands. It's quite late at my time, but that's okay. I'm happy to be here. So my background is actually in organic chemistry. That's where I started. And then I did a specialization in pharmaceutical chemistry. After multiple years working in the pharmaceutical industry, mostly in the research and development field, I more or less shifted more into the food/pharma field. This was always my interest to see the correlation between food and what we put in our mouth and how it affects in our body. A few years ago, I had the opportunity to start my own company, which is Dutch Essentials. And there we actually focus purely on extractions, purifications, distillations, etc. And the field of application ranges mainly for food applications, but also for aromatherapy, of course, essential oils. And as Robin already said, we got in touch through a mutual acquaintance who was actually more interested in the frankincense essential oil, which is quite difficult to distill. Maybe some of you have experience already. It's not the most easy matrix that you want to have in your still. So we did this distillation, and actually then Robin showed up from, hey, what are we doing with the mass that stays behind, because there's Boswellic acid inside. And I had never heard of Boswellic acid prior to that. And the last year we did a lot of R&D on this compound, and we have effectively made a very good procedure to extract the Boswellic acid from the frankincense resin. And I think we will elaborate further on this in the presentation.
Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, let me get it bigger. Okay, let me get it to the slideshow. All right. All right. So you just learned about us. So this page we really don't need. Okay. So what is it and where does it come from? It's the aftermath once the resin is put into the still and then distilled to get the essential oil and the resin, there's I call it a gook at the bottom of the still that's left over. And when you go to this gook, it looks like this. When it hits the air, when it comes out, it's almost like taffy. And when it hits the air, it gets very, very hard. And this is where all the Boswellic acid is, because the Boswellic acid is too heavy a molecule to come through to the distillation. So it all stays behind. It's not in the essential oil at all, and it's not in the hydrosol. It totally stays behind. When it is broken down, it basically looks like the second picture, and then it has to be dried, and it's a process to dry this. And Michael can, when I show you the three, Michael can tell you how it's dried. And then, of course, it's dried to a fine powder. So explain to them how it's actually dried to make it look like this.
It's quite a difficult process, or I have to say tedious process, because of course we're distilling in water, and water is a very difficult solvent chemically to remove, because it has a very high vapor pressure. Of course, it's not like an organic solvent like ethanol, which is quite volatile. And the second thing that actually increases the difficulty is that the aftermath, it contains quite a lot of sugar molecules. So we cannot dry this product at a very high temperature, as it would degrade the product. So we are limited or restricted to the temperature that we can use for the drying. So obviously this also increases the drying time significantly. So in this process, we have different drying steps that we employ. The last one, at least to obtain this very nice white powder, it requires multiple days of drying in vacuum chambers.
And how long does it normally take?
Multiple days, up to weeks.
Yes, that's the disadvantage. It takes weeks to get the powder because nothing is in blood. It's all in stages. So what does it look like in molecules? Explain, Michael.
Well, this is where it becomes very technical, and I think it would be beneficial to the audience to give a little bit of additional background information. So if we are talking about boswellic acids, we are not talking about one single molecule. We are talking about a collection of molecules with a similar structure. They differ only if we look at the chemical structure, we see these groups named R, and that's where the differences occur. So depending on which type of atoms are located on these R groups, that defines which type of boswellic acid we are talking about. So in the table, you will see different names of boswellic acids, and it's very good to understand that we have two differences when we talk about boswellic acids. We have the total boswellic acid content, which is basically the entire list of the table, and we have the AKBA, which is the acetyl keto beta boswellic acid. And this compound is particularly interesting if we're talking about molecular actions in the body. Now, if we're talking about molecular actions in the body, then maybe some of you already know boswellic acids are very effective in helping to reduce inflammation. So we have a lot of literature that's already out there. There's been a lot of clinical studies already out there. And how it works is that the boswellic acid, the AKBA, specifically targets an enzyme. It's the 5-LOX. This 5-lipoxygenase, very difficult name. And this molecule is involved, or this receptor is involved in the inflammation response in the body. So what happens is that the boswellic acid, it actually reduces the activity of the 5-LOX, and that reduces, of course, inflammation. So then we have a second activity, which is based on oncology effects. So we see a very positive effect in tumor growth. So the boswellic acids, they lower the activity of a very specific protein. It's called NF-kappa B. And NF-kappa B, it's also involved in inflammation, specifically for tumor growth. Doesn't mean that boswellic acid will cure cancer, but it has been shown to aid the chemotherapy treatments in cancer patients. So I think this one is yours, right?
Pretty much. We conducted different clinical analysis of the biomass, and we are using an organic ethanol solvent. And it's very similar, and you can explain it more to a GC report. You can't do a GC report on powder. You can only do it on essential oils. And explain what this machine does.
Well, I think it's a very good crowd to explain this to, because most of you will probably know gas chromatography. And gas chromatography is basically a method for separating molecules, so we can observe how many compounds are inside a product and what is the given quantity of this item in your product that you're measuring. However, GC, gas chromatography, is restricted to molecules which can go into the vapor phase. So it has to go into a gaseous state before you can analyze it. That's also why it's restricted to volatile compounds like essential oils. So if we want to measure compounds which are non-volatile, like proteins or heavier molecules like boswellic acid, we need to employ a different chromatography technique, and it's called liquid chromatography. Liquid chromatography, the basics are almost the same, but instead of evaporating, we dissolve the molecule before we analyze it. The analysis looks similar. We separate all of the molecules. You will see a peak, and where every peak represents one molecule, and the height of the peak indicates the quantity of this molecule in the mixture. So people have been asking us, where's the GC report? It's not possible to make a GC report because these molecules are not volatile. So any analysis that's being shown for boswellic acid, it has to be a liquid chromatography. Some people use LC-MS, which is liquid chromatography coupled to a mass spectrometer. This is just something related to the detector of the molecule. So we have different detection techniques. It doesn't say anything on the separation of the molecules. That stays the same. So as Robin already explained into the introduction, boswellic acids are too heavy to be distilled. So they're also too heavy or too big to be analyzed on gas chromatography. So one addition to this slide, so we saw a lot of studies published on boswellic acids, clinical studies as well, different disease patterns. And most of these products that were used, they had a AKBA content between 30 and 40%, and they have achieved wonderful results. So we did our best to extract all of the boswellic acids as pure as possible. That's what we do. And we have successfully managed to get about 70 to 75% AKBA in our product.
The original, just so you know, the raw, which is before we did the extraction, we tested it through the same, and it's tested monthly to make sure that it's still there. And the raw came in between 35 and 40%. And then when we did the extraction, we've been finding that we're getting somewhere between 70 and 75%. In some cases, when we did the extraction, we found we actually got 80%. It all depends on how it's distilled, when it's distilled, and which resin we're using. We're using first grade carteri, which has no bark in it. Most people who distill it will distill it for the BA, will do it with the bark. We're doing it without the bark, which basically gives you more BA. So it's very interesting that even though we did it, we're selling the 35%, we felt that let's see what happens when we do a extraction and see how much we got out. And we got out an incredible amount. So what are the benefits of using the powder itself, the boswellic acid? Well, research has shown it's great for chronic conditions. It's great for us for arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, IBD, skin conditions, fibromyalgia. We found it works for sinus issues and also cancer. Michael can explain how it inhibits the 5-LOX and COX enzymes. So at that point, it's more chemical. You explain it.
Yeah, it's quite difficult to explain it in simple terms. The 5-LOX, it actually helps to produce a hormone type proteins called leukotrienes. And these molecules, they trigger inflammation. So what we see is that these leukotrienes, they are generated in vivo by the body for a wide range of auto-inflammatory diseases. And there's quite a lot of auto-inflammatory diseases, IBD, rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia, naming a few, but also skin conditions. These are all linked to the production of these leukotrienes. The boswellic acid actually inhibits the 5-LOX, and that reduces the amount of leukotrienes in the body, and then less inflammation happens. So if we put it in very simple terms, this will lead to less pain and more flexibility, for instance, in the joints or also on your skin. So it's like giving a natural cool down for the body from the inside. We also see a lot of literature on other conditions. Asthma, of course, is also autoinflammatory disease, but we've also seen a publication where boswellic acid was used in Parkinson's disease. So they saw a lot of cognitive enhancement with people, with patients with Parkinson's disease in a fast stage, increased memory and mood, because they are also reducing inflammation in the brain, which is of course occurring due to the accumulation of protein matter.
Okay, so this is basically what the powder looks like. This is the raw, this is the premium. The actual raw, when you make the powder, using the powder in an infusion in a carrier oil, I found that it has to be strained. It doesn't dissolve completely. It clumps up, and just like resin, and after 2 weeks you have to strain it. The premium, on the other hand, works a little different, and there's no straining. It completely melts in the product. And this is an example. This is in fractionated coconut oil, and you don't see anything, nothing. It's completely melted. And this is in black seed oil, and again, completely melted. So you do not have to strain it, and you can use it immediately. And it was funny because when Michael first sent it to me to be tested, I put it in, I've been experimenting on how many teaspoons what for the usage for your skin. And so I put it into one of these bottles with fractionated coconut oil, and the doorbell rang. So, and I gave it a little shake, and the doorbell rang. I went to the door, I came back, and I'm going, wait a minute, where's the powder? I don't see any powder. And so I smelt it. Well, guess what? It has no smell and it has no taste. So now what? So I said, I know I put it in here. So I said, okay, I'm not crazy. I'm going to do it again. And this time I'm going to be in front of it. And sure enough, it completely dissolved. So it's very interesting between the two of them when you use the solvent, and we're using an organic ethanol solvent compared to this. Now, this is what you see on the right is an example of how it's extracted. And Michael, explain that machine. What's happening here?
Well, this is actually a very nice moving picture. So basically, this is just a simple filtration. So it looks very fancy, but this is just a simple filtration. So we have multiple steps in the process to isolate the boswellic acids. Of course, we start off with the distillation. We have the biomass or the aftermath available, which is quite sticky. This one we have to dissolve again. This will remove sugars, starches, natural occurring compounds. There could be some bark in there, but in general, we don't have a lot of bark because we use the grade 1 resin. And then step by step, we remove all of the compounds that we are not interested in, like these sugars and starches that I mentioned. So we have consecutive steps of extraction, filtration, extraction, filtration. And in the end, once we are happy with the result, we do the drying step. So as you can see, we have quite a big volume of liquid, which then needs to be concentrated at low temperature. So that's also the explanation why it takes so long to dry.
So how we used it topically, we gave it to several testers over a 6-month period. I made it in a jojoba oil. I made half of it with the 35% and half of it with the 70%. The people that were using it had it charted for their results, and the results were outstanding. Some people got it in a lotion, and some people got it in a carrier oil, which was jojoba. And the formula that we basically figured out was for the 35%, and we recommend the 35% to children, to those over the age of 80, and also those that have extremely sensitive skin. And it's 1 teaspoon of powder to 4 ounces of that lotion that you saw, that it can be mixed up with and left in. And it has little granules in it, and it's very good as an exfoliant for the face. You let it sit for 1 day and you mix it up. For the 70%, the for the carrier oil, it's also 1 teaspoon to 6 ounces of carrier oil. And you need to infuse it for about 2 weeks. It becomes very thick, and then you can strain it. You can actually use it by itself, or you can put an essential oil in it to make it even stronger. The 70%, you only need a 1/2 teaspoon to 6 ounces of carrier oil or 4 ounces of hand and body lotion. And as I said before, there's no straining at all. And I just explained what it, in 1 sentence, I explained what it's good for. These are examples of some of the people that had tested it. In this case, she had all these wrinkles all over her chest. And after 3 months, this is what her chest looked like. She used it in the jojoba, and she applied it to her chest. She used the 70% on her chest, and this is what happened. This is another example. This happens to be me. I had a skin tag on my thigh, and I tried everything, and I could not get it off. So I decided to use it in a jojoba, and the advantage of carteri, using carteri resin is excellent for the skin to begin with, for dermatitis, for eczema, for what's the other one? There's dermatitis, eczema, and psoriasis. And because it's good for that, there are so many different things you could use it for. So this was the first day. It was raised and red, and about 4 days later, it was no longer raised and red. And by the end of the week, it was gone. This is totally gone. So I used it twice a day, and it worked. It didn't burn my skin, and it removed the tag. This was another one that we used for the 70%. On her neck, she had these dark spots. And then about 3 weeks later of putting it on, this is what was left. You can hardly see it. And another 2 to 3 weeks, and you couldn't even see it at all. We had also, besides using it for skin problems, you can use it for chronic pain. And this particular person had chronic arthritis in her hands. She, as you could read by her quote, it totally worked for her, and it was amazing. She massaged it into her hands. Please, whoever is not muted, please mute yourself. And it actually worked. So it's amazing. And we have others And I just didn't want to put them all here, or we'd be here for 10 hours. It can be used on animals as long as you use a carrier oil that the animal is not allergic to or can ingest. So we use basically olive oil. This German Shepherd had hip problems, and the medicine that the vet gave him was making him nauseous and was giving him diarrhea. So nothing was really helping him. So what I did is I took to 35% because I felt being an animal, I was going to treat him like a child. And I did it in organic olive oil, because olive oil is ingestible. And I figured if he licked it, he wouldn't, he wouldn't get sick. Well, she applied it to him twice a day. And after 2 days, he was no longer limping, which is a very good sign. And I would say after a week, he had no pain. And it's funny because when he was in pain, he would go and get the bottle and bring it to her to have her put it on him. He was old, and unfortunately, he died about a year later. He was about 18 years old. So, but this helped him quite a bit. It has been put on horses, race horses. I have a client that puts it on her racehorse because when he runs, his hind quarters hurt. So she massages it in olive oil on his hind quarters, and he's like in heaven. He is not limping and he feels wonderful. Before we get into the capsules, I would like to explain why, and I'll let Michael explain it a little bit more too, is why we're using carteri over Serrata. So, Michael, unmute.
Yes. So what you see currently on the market, and that's very interesting because also the bigger companies have caught on to Boswellic acid, and we see quite a lot of supplements hitting the market at this moment. Most companies are using Boswellia serrata, which is of course a different type, you all know that. But the main difference is the chemical composition or the ratios of boswellic acids between the two different species. What we see is that the Boswellia serrata contains much less AKBA. And AKBA, as I mentioned before, is actually the most effective compound within the boswellic acids. So the carteri contains much more. This is a factor 10 in difference. So this is really significant. So what we see in most of the supplements is that they are really diluted. So they make a claim containing 30% boswellic acids, but this is usually 30% of the resin, maybe not even distilled, and 70% of other material. So what's really important if we're looking for a supplement or an extract is that we need to get a minimum content of the AKBA. And as we have seen in the clinical studies that were published, we need to have a real total boswellic acid content of 40% to achieve any effect. So if we have a lower concentration than that, nothing is going to happen.
The other problem is that they're not putting something in the Boswellic acid to make it work better. So if you're going to take straight Boswellic acid with nothing else, your liver can't digest and break up the enzymes. And what's going to happen is instead of getting 70%, you'll probably get between 30 and 40%, because you won't get the fullness. And we're going to go into what we're doing. As you could see, we are now doing capsules because we felt since we are doing everything organic and natural, and we disclose everything. And there's one thing you got to know also is if you look at these bottles on the shelf, it will only give you certain information because the FDA does not regulate herbal supplements. So they don't have to put they don't have to put how they extracted it. They don't have to put whatever else is in it. They don't have to put any of that. They could just write Boswellic acid. Some of them have put fillers in, but the fillers that they're putting in is fluff. It's basically not all Boswellic acid. It's a mix of either essential oils and a carrier oil, or it's other fluff that's put in prescription drugs. So you're not getting the full count, the full container of Boswellic acid. And the other thing is that we are basically putting in black pepper extract. It's completely organic, and I just uploaded, so you'll be able to go to it on my website. In my wholesale side, I put all our certifications up, so we don't hide anything. I'm an aromatherapist, and my reputation is very important. And Michael knows I stress that completely. The company that he owns is the same way. Everything has to be pure, natural, and real. So what we did is we had to figure out how well the capsules would work. So what we did is we conducted a study involving human beings to evaluate the benefits of the BA and using the carteri. We did 35% and we did 70% in a special formula of black pepper extract, which we will not tell you because it's proprietary. But we can tell you that 10% of the 10% in the capsule is what's in is black pepper powder, and the rest of it is Boswellic acid. They are 500 mg capsules, and 450 mgs is BA, and 50 is the black pepper. And we gave it to testers to test. And we found out that by doing the testing, and it's on this website, by doing the testing, we found that more people did better on the 70% than they did on the 35%. And the results were just totally outstanding. It helped, as well as it helped with the topical application, it even helped better with the ingesting it. And how we basically did it is we had them take one capsule in the morning, and if they really needed it, one capsule in the evening, in the morning with food, with a warm glass of water, not cold, not hot. Reason why not cold, not hot? Cold, unfortunately, will make it hard. It's still a resin, it's still sticky. And I wanted to make sure it went down right. Not hot, because if it happens to melt in the mouth and the capsule comes apart, you will get it in your teeth. And believe me, it's very sticky. So you want to make sure it all goes down correctly. And so we found that warm water worked the best. They took it with a meal so that there would be no problems. And they took it for a week to make sure that they had no gas or anything else, because we wanted to know. They had to chart it exactly what happened day by day. Some of my testers are actually here, and they could tell you how they felt. We found that with the 70%, it lasted 6 to 8 hours in the body, depending on what you were using it for. So if you were using it for, let's say, fibromyalgia, it lasted a good 6 to 8 hours before you really needed to take another one. Some people didn't have to take another one. People that had arthritis, some of them needed only one. It all depends on your body. The testers ranged from the age of 40 all the way up to 75 years of age. So we had a combination of everybody. And the results were unreal. We had people that were testing it. They were supposed to be testing it for arthritis in their knees, and it turned out that they had gotten a sinus infection, and it cleared that up too. So it's amazing what it could test for. I had one client who was supposed to test it for her knees, and it turned out she had stage 2 breast cancer. She did not tell me she was testing it for this, because I would have told her she can't, because we really didn't want anybody to test it for cancer, because there are no long-term studies on Boswellic acid for cancer, only short-term. We know the chemical dissolves certain cancers, but there's no long-term studies. Well, she didn't want to go on chemo, and she didn't want to go on radiation. So she came back to me a month later and said, guess what? I was taking it for this, which of course I yelled at her. And she said, but Robin, the tumors, I went for a test and the tumor is gone. I had another ultrasound and mammography and the tumor's gone. And I go, that can't be. It's only a month. So she said, well, it's not there. Can you send me another package so I could get through another month? And luckily I had some left over, and I did. And again, and she was only taking it she was taking it twice a day. After the next 30 days, again, nothing, no tumor at all. Why? We're hoping that this is what it did, but we don't know. I told her that she needs to constantly monitor and make sure that it doesn't come back. So there are so many different things that you could do with it. As I said, you could look it up, and Michael gave me this site, and it explains how it was used in everything. So there was a test, there was testing done, and the article is fantastic. So it's about an hour's read, but it is phenomenally good. So as I said, we are selling the capsules wholesale, and they look like this. Comes in this bag, wholesale. They're 1,000 to a bag. And if you want pricing, you need to email me. They are 0 capsules because I wanted it easy to swallow. They look like this. That's what a capsule looks like. And we are selling them retail also, and we're selling them in bags of 60, and they're on my website. And if you want all the documentation that goes with it, it's on my wholesale page. So if you click on the link on my wholesale page and you go further down, all the documentation is there. What is there? the documentation that shows it's organic ethanol, I'm sorry, it's organic pepper, black pepper, and it's in Dutch. So what I did is I had my program translate some of it, and I put it below the translation so that you could see, unless you know Dutch, that it is totally organic. The ethanol solvent that we used, we have certification for that. That PDF is there also. The research that I did as a PDF, if you don't want to go to the website, you can download that one also. And the certification that shows how much BA is in the capsules, because it came from our last distillation, which is, as I said, we test monthly. That's there also. So we give you everything where companies don't give you nothing. So this way, you know what we're selling is pure. We will sell it. Michael will send it out if you live in Europe, and you can actually save some money so that you don't have to pay United States dollars if you're in Europe, and you can do it in euros. So shipping is extra. All you have to do is give me all the information, and I will forward it to Michael. We are doing this as a joint venture, so you can't exactly sneak and run to Michael or to me, because we know what each other is doing. So, and you're not going to get a change in a price because we're doing this together. So, Michael, do you have, oh, before I forget, I basically said all this, and in a nutshell, these are all the references that we worked on. And if you go to everything, all these, if you have nothing better to do and you want to go and research it, you can have the pleasure and research them all. And what I'm going to do is just stop the share. Let's see. Okay, so now we're back. So if question time is now. So if you have a question, there is a box on the bottom where you can raise, it says raise, and you can raise your hand, because otherwise I'm not going to see you. All right, we'll do Melissa first. You got to unmute. Melissa, unmute yourself.
Okay, yeah, here.
Go ahead.
Hi. So my question is, how long does the powder last? How much should one take for cancer or any sort of chronic conditions? And lastly, is it okay to combine it with other supplements?
Okay, it lasts about 5 years, right, Michael? 5 years. You can unmute, Michael.
Yes.
It's about
Yeah, exactly.
it's a
And
5 year. Go ahead.
sorry to interrupt. Well, I want to go ahead with the, can we take it with other supplements or any other drugs? There has been no drug-drug interactions described in literature, as far as we know, and it has been quite extensively studied. So it's safe to say that there's no additional safety measures that you have to take if you take this supplement. If you doubt, of course, ask your pharmacist, not the doctor, because he doesn't know. Ask the pharmacist.
Okay, thank you.
Well, there was a there was a middle question. What was the
The
middle
middle
question?
question was, oh, how much should one take for cancer or chronic conditions?
All right, it depends on your body. My suggestion is to talk with your oncologist first, all right, and see what he thinks. All right. If it's all experiment. So
Right.
I couldn't even give you Should you take one a day? Should you take 2 a day? I don't know. I really don't know. It depends on your body. We don't recommend more
If
than
we,
2.
if we look at the clinical studies that has been done so far, and usually they take a 2 to 3 times dosage a day for the 500 milligrams. However, our extract is much stronger. So before going 3 times a day, I would start once per day, see if you have any side effects like gas or stomach ache or whatever. And if that works, then I would just recommend 2 capsules a day.
Yeah, it's very strong because with the black pepper in it, you're getting the full 70%. So you never know what. And the only thing I'm going to say about the black pepper, and Michael can confirm, black pepper has a tendency to mix with certain blood thinners. And being a pharmacist, Michael, which ones does it mix with?
So I think in the US you take a low dose of aspirin, which is a COX-1 inhibitor. This might interfere, but it's such a low dose, I wouldn't worry too much about it. But if you have any doubts on the blood thinners, check with the pharmacist again. We can give you the amount of black pepper which is inside, so we can do the calculations. But in general, if you just normally day-to-day eat food with black pepper on it, you're still alive, you will also survive the capsules.
It's one way to look at it. Yeah, there's such a minute amount of black pepper in it, but there's enough to allow the liver to break it down correctly.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, right. Anybody else? There's a whole bunch of you here. Somebody's got to have another question. Roxanne.
Hi. All right, hang on. Let me see if I can open this up.
That's okay.
Okay. So there you go. So my question is there an advantage of using the Boswellic acid actually internally in olive oil? So you can open up the capsule, put it in oil, because don't you need an oil, a base to absorb the resin, the Boswellic acid?
It's a very good question.
Yeah, why
No,
would you?
because Patty, if you, sorry to interrupt, but Roxanne is completely right. If we eat some fats with our diet, this increases the bioabsorption, the gut bioabsorption. But you could, if you take it in a meal or before a meal, there usually is plenty of fat in any type of meal to have this good absorption. So also we mentioned the pepper a few times. So the active compound in pepper is piperine, and piperine increases the bioavailability of this of many compounds, not just the boswellic acid, many compounds, and because it opens up the gut wall. So it's not a prerequisite to open up the capsules and put it in an olive oil carrier. So I wouldn't say it will increase much more of the gut absorption.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And since if there are no other questions, I'll ask another one.
Sure.
Is there an advantage? I mean, I know you're extracting the BA from the entire resin after distillation, but I'm just wondering, would there be an advantage of taking the whole resin and powdering it and using that?
You are using
Yes.
the whole powder. That's what you, oh, you mean the resin before?
Before distillation,
Yeah, but you can't do that because you're not getting all of the BA out.
Well, you can do it, and this is how it's traditionally been done. So, if you look at the Africas, the traditional medicine, they would just chew on the resin, and that works. The only disadvantage is that the ratio of boswellic acid is much lower than if you would take the extract.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's very informative.
All right, before
You're
we,
welcome.
Barbara asked the question, and she's the one who, for some weird reason, I can't see her. She said, what type of side effect might be experienced? The side effects, the only side effects we found in the trials was gas pains, which after using it after a week went away. And those that abused it, that decided to throw 2 in at once, or decided to do 4 or 5 a day, wound up with diarrhea because they didn't listen and didn't follow the protocol. If you follow our suggestions, you should not have a problem with it at all. You might still get some gas because remember, it's different. It's a foreign substance coming in. So you might get gas, but that's about it. Suzanne?
Yes, hi. I'm just wondering, are you also selling it retail? Because I don't have a
Yes.
wholesale account.
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
I said. It's on my
Okay, I missed
website.
that. Sorry.
Yeah, it's on my website. Looks like this. This is retail.
Okay.
On the back gives you full instructions on how to use it. Because not everybody remembers what's on a website. And if you go to my website, I have a million, I wrote this whole thing up, and I even have questions and answers there. And I said, if you go to my wholesale page, I put all the documentation, all the PDFs are there.
Okay, thank you.
Eric.
Thank you again, Robin and Michael. Very informative. I actually forgot my question, but I had another question. um, Similar to the essential oils and Palo Santo, does the acid itself have any antimicrobial, bacterial, antifungal properties, or is that all extracted with the essential oil?
No, it does. Let me whip it up. I don't know it by heart, all of them, but so the link which is in the presentation, it's an open source link to a review article. If you go ahead and click that, once we share the presentation, there's also a very big chapter on antimicrobial activity. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, it's an incredible, whoever did this, it's an incredible piece of work. So it's amazing. They use Serrata, and in some cases they did use carteri. They use both. So I read it and it's incredible.
So Michael's
Anybody
company is actually doing the extraction?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
he's the extraction.
Got it. And then I did remember the original question. So the different percentages, one's in the capsule. You're selling the one in the capsule, and then you're selling the other one for topical, the one that you said dissolves in the carrier oils?
No. It's the same powder. Only one is going inside a capsule, and the other is just the powder.
Okay, so
The
you're selling
powder
the
is
35% or the 70%?
in the capsule is 70.
But the
And then
35 you're also selling, and I think Eric is asking if this would be the best for topical use, because we are not putting the 35% in the capsules.
No, it's
got it.
70% in the capsule.
So what's the 35 for? Is that the topical one?
That's the topical.
Okay, and then is that the one that dissolves in the carrier, or that's the one you have to strain out?
That's the one you have to strain out.
Okay,
The
got it.
35% has to be strained. It's thicker. If you hold the two of them up in your hand, the 70% is finer and the 35% is thicker. Because remember, you're using a solvent to pull it out. So it thins it out even more.
Mm-hmm. Well, like you said, I used a little bit of that the BA Sacra in sesame oil, and I actually like the exfoliation. So for bath products
You'll
or
get the
scrubs and
same
things, I
thing
actually
in
like
the
it.
You'll get the same thing in the carteri.
And that would be the 35%.
That would be the 35.
Okay, great. Thank you. Awesome.
Got it. And I'm going to send out your capsules probably tomorrow.
One for me and one for Chris. So you have two testimonies.
What do you mean one for you and one for Chrissy? We'll talk about it.
All right. Thank you.
Anybody else questions? There's a whole lot of you here. I can't believe nobody has a question.
Yeah,
You
I have
all-
a question.
Who?
I have a question.
Wait, who's raising hand?
Oh, I didn't raise my hand, but I'm raising it here on video.
Oh, there. Okay, go ahead.
I couldn't find it. I have a question. Let's say someone who doesn't tolerate capsules, because there is some people that can't tolerate,
Well,
especially myself.
you can open the capsule and put it in a tablespoon of honey or a
Okay.
tablespoon of applesauce. And then
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't take the tablespoon of honey all at once because you'll choke on it. But
okay.
because honey is thick, so I would take it like in sips, but I would down it with the warm water. And
Oh, okay.
applesauce goes down a little different than honey, so you probably could mix it in the tablespoon and that you could swallow all at once.
Right. Okay.
I just wouldn't swallow honey all at once because it's very thick.
And if I wanted to use the 70% externally on the skin with the lotion.
Then you would use the regular powder.
Right.
Either the 70 or the
Right.
35, depending on where
Okay.
you're putting it.
Yeah, because that one you don't need to strain.
I
the
don't
70%.
recommend the 70 on your face. It's too strong.
Okay.
You'll burn your face. I
Okay.
recommend the 35% on the face.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Anyone? Hey, Zach, are you here? Zach? Earth to Zach. He's not here. Oh, but he can't turn the mic on. Why not? All right, Melissa?
One more question. So with these chronic conditions, is it, and I understand it's an experimentation, so would you suggest 1 to 2 capsules a day for 3 months and then you stop to see where you're at, or?
All right, it depends on the chronic condition. If you're using it for, let's say you have severe joint pain, all right, muscle and joint pain, then you start with 1 a day for at least a week because you might not need to. Everybody's body is different. I was taking it for, I had surgery on my back. So I was taking it and I was taking the 70% and I'm on blood thinners and I didn't have a problem. So, and I monitor my INR levels weekly. And in this case, I was monitoring it every day to see if there was a change. And I had no problem at all. So after back surgery, what I was doing is I was taking it once a day. And I was using the topical, the 35% on my back because 70% was just too strong and I had stitches and I didn't want it to burn in that area. And I took it once a day until I had no more pain. And then I stopped it. So it depends. If you have fibromyalgia and it's constant, then what you will find is that when you're taking it every day, it gets into your bloodstream, it gets into your system. And you might find that your fibromyalgia now that was critical up here is now here. And you don't need it anymore. So you stop it until you do something stupid and then you start taking it again.
Right.
So think of it of like taking aspirin. All right, you're not going to take aspirin every day. You're only going to take it until you feel good again.
Right.
And once you feel good, you're going to stop it because then there's no reason to take it.
Okay.
All right, you're taking it for a reason. You're not taking it just because.
Right. Right.
So if you're trying to play with it for cancer, then it's an experiment.
Right.
You must be monitored. You must be monitored by your oncologist because we don't know what it does. We don't. We only have short-term studies. And I run a frankincense group, and I tell them all the time, even just for the resin, don't rely on just this. If you're told that you need chemo, then you need chemo.
Mm-hmm.
You know, don't play games. So, but if you had, let's say you had cancer and you're in remission, now you can take it every day to possibly keep it in remission. And
Mm-hmm.
at that point, I would only take it once a day.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Somebody's in the car. We got the side effects. Okay. Anybody else have any? You got to lower your hands because I don't know who is what. Shame, Zach, you can't turn on your mic, or you would tell us your experience with it.
Well, I think if people have more questions, feel free to send an email, and then
Right.
we will answer them as well.
Right. You can pop me an email. If you see me on Facebook, you can send me a message. That way, Michael is on LinkedIn, so you can send him a message if you're on it. And as I said, you can email me. And Michael is into all kinds of stuff. So I'm also selling by chance because I'm going to give him a plug. I'm selling his fantastic aromas, which I'm having a ball with them. Every day I put it in a different drink, but they're natural aromas. You can use it in food. I've been experimenting with them. You could put them in lotion. They are fantastic in lip balms. They work in soap because he was doing it just for food. And I said, well, what about products? And he goes, I don't know. You're the experimenter. I'm going to send it to you. You figure it out. But I said, we can't do it in alcohol. So he purposely made it in glycerol so that it can be mixed in a carrier oil. And it is wonderful. I grow valerian in the summer, and I don't know if you guys know what valerian smells like. I think it smells like stinky feet, right? So how can I sell this bottle for sleep and for stress when it smells so disgusting? So what I did is he sells one of them are hazelnut. So I put 2 drops and it's very, very highly concentrated. And it's on my website and I sell it retail. And if you're a business, I do sell it for him wholesale. And I put 2 little drops in this 1 ounce bottle, and now it doesn't smell like stinky feet anymore. It smells like hazelnut. I didn't want to put strawberry because I figured that would be pushing it, but it smells just like hazelnut now. And he also does eucalyptus, and I sell that for him wholesale. We also are selling the carteri essential oil. So we're doing it wholesale at a very good price, and it's on my website retail. We also have the hydrosol, because remember, we have to distill to get the aftermath. So we do have the carteri essential oil, and we do have the hydrosol, and this carteri essential oil is nothing like what you purchase in the store, because most of the places do it with second grade carteri, because second grade is cheaper, and it has the bark. And if you hold up one of our bottles and you hold up second grade, you'll see the difference. It's much richer, it's much nicer, and because it comes from the Netherlands, where the water is purer than our water and anywhere else, it's fantastic. So again, we're selling it wholesale, and Melissa has the hydrosol. Yeah, the hydrosol is wonderful. You'd never know that it was a hydrosol. It's excellent. So as I said, I have it. I'm selling it wholesale and retail. Anything over 10 liters of it will come straight from Michael. And Val has raised her hand. So what's up?
I was just wondering, maybe this is a question for Michael, but if you could talk a little bit about the sourcing of the resin. Farmers. Oops.
Wait.
You're moving.
Wait, again,
No.
let me unmute her. Let me mute her. There we go. Okay, now, Michael, go ahead.
So we have a contact who's in Germany, and he is specialized in sourcing the Boswellia resins. I think he's offering about all of the 60 different kinds. So he has very reliable partners in all over Africa for the sourcing. So I don't go directly to Africa or Ethiopia or Somalia, because there's a lot of corruption and you never know where I'm sending the money to. And the last thing I need is for my company to be involved in sending transaction to potential terrorist groups or whatever. So we pay a little bit more extra money to have this sourcing validated. Very good guy.
Yeah, I know him personally. I've been using him. I buy my resin through him, and I've been using him for about 10 years, and he's very honest. Otherwise, I would have not recommended Michael to use him. And he is unbelievable when it comes to frankincense. So he's very, very knowledgeable, and he only gets the best. And he is very big on sustainability.
Good.
As well as I am. So.
Yeah. It's so important today.
Oh, definitely. Without a doubt.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
As I said, his eucalyptus is different also. I can't stomach eucalyptus. And when I hate the smell of it. When Michael said, when I first met him, he goes, we do eucalyptus. Oh, so he said, I'll send you a sample. Well, he sent me more than just one sample. And I was afraid to open it because what was I going to tell him if I really didn't like it? So I opened it and I went, oh my God, I've not smelled eucalyptus like this. It's not like anything you've ever smelled when it comes to eucalyptus. Eucalyptus used to make me feel like I wanted to vomit, and it would give me a terrible headache. And this is phenomenal. The smell is unreal. And it is a very, very good eucalyptus. So maybe, and I sell it at a very good price retail. And for him, I sell it at a very good price wholesale. So that's like the carteri and the hydrosol and the aromas, which he now came out with 200 aromas, different flavors. And I'm like, oh my God, fabulous. So if anybody doesn't have any other questions, when this ends, it takes a good 2 to 3 hours for WebEx to process it, shrink it, and put it into an MP4. And what I will do is when I get it up somewhere, I will email it to you. So if you want, as I said, you could go to, yeah, there will be a replay. There will be the recording of this. So when I will get it up, I will email the list that I have from everybody. And this way you could go and watch the video again if you want. A couple of people, we had 50 people signed up. There were 30 that were here. So a lot of people told me they couldn't make it, but at least they could watch the replay. If you want the PDF, email me and I will send you the PDF of the PowerPoint presentation. And again, if you have any questions and if you want to get the capsules retail, I'm selling them on my website for a very good price. You get 60, so you have enough for either a month or 2 months, depending on how you take it. And all the instructions are on it, and everything you can know about it is on the website. And again, all the documentation for it is on the wholesale page. So you can download that and you can see how honest we are. So we both have a very big reputation and we both believe in purity. So if anybody doesn't have any more questions, I'm going to thank you, Michael, and I'm going to at least stop this recording. So anybody before I hit the button?
Thank you again. Great to meet you all.
Thank
Great
you.
to meet you, Michael. Thanks, Robin.
Okay.
Thank you for your attention. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.